It's an easy pastime for dragons, tuning in on the radio while working or relaxing with kin. In fact, it's the reason radios were ever created. Hi, I'm your host Heatwave, and in today's little episode, I'll be exploring music within Pareena and dance that goes with it, as we explore deeper into dragon culture. Hey, Dingo, turn it up, will ya? I like this one. Sure. Welcome back to the Wings of Fire spin-off series Empire of Pareena. In today's lore episode, I'll be exploring music within Pareena, its history, what instruments are used, and how dragons can access music, common line dances, and the official Imperial Orchestra. Before we begin though, I'd like to thank and give credit to the few admins a part of the channel Discord server. They helped come up with the name and personality of the 14th Empress, Okatilla. So I, Heatwave, thank them for their support. If you too want to get exclusive insights, speak to me directly, vote in upcoming episodes, and give suggestions, please join our Discord server. The link can be found on the channel homepage. So, without further ado, let's start with the historical context of dance and music. If you've been following along with the culture episodes, you'll know that in Pareena, the Mudwings were the first winglet to produce song and dance that became a cultural identity and significant among their winglet. Now, of course, music has been around a lot longer than recorded history, so it's safe to speculate other winglets would have come up with their own music, but the Mudwings recorded it first, so I'll give them credit for it. Anyway, yes, the Mudwings culturally used music and dance during their large community gatherings as a form of entertainment and as a breeding ritual. As I've stated before in other culture episodes, traditional dance is only performed by female Mudwings as a way of showing off to the males. Their dance was simplistic, using a lot of tail movement. They wore talon-stitched cloth and garments, along with painting their scales to attract attention. The instruments used in song making at this time were quite simple in their design, which makes me think other winglets would have been capable of crafting them. I've got two documented to note. The first is a clapstick. Simply put, these are small rods made out of wood, smoothed and carved so they have a smooth hitting surface, and they are simply clapped together to make a beat. Second is a rainmaker. This capped tube is filled with small bones of prey, typically catfish. When shaken, it sounds like rain. This item is still made in Pareena to this day, but instead it's seen as a dragonette's toy. As Pareena evolved culturally into the Empire, music evolved too. Common bar songs were heard all over the Empire, but no new instruments would be created, or at least not on a large scale. Most instruments used by dragons today began life as a simple homemade item, unique to one dragon. But with the rise of industrialization in 1100, some dragons began to sell the patterns of their instruments, creating a new market for manufacturing. The problem was, no one was interested in making music. Dragons didn't have the skill, and learning was hard enough. The few who did buy commercial instruments ended up redesigning them by themselves, making them easier to learn and exploring different sounds and materials to use with. In 1414, the Sound Depository Note Company was founded and began to produce a single set of instruments to the specifications of the 14th Empress. Empress Okatilla was one of the more strange imperators. She was closed off, quiet and shy. She wore regalements that didn't attract attention to her. She seemed not to be a very good natural leader, but she did have an interest in music, seeing it as a more effective form of talking and storytelling, and seeing if it could be applied in diplomatic means. She studied quite significantly in old Mudwing marsh and folk songs, and in her spare time, she began to train a few of the palace serfs in how to use these instruments, essentially forming the first imperial orchestra. The Imperial Orchestra of Pareena was founded in late 1420, where it would first play only to the imperator, but it took its music to the wider population of Pareena by playing across Pareena in its major cities and population centres. It's here a shift was made culturally, that instruments could be used to make very popular music, and thus there was a massive boost in their popularity as they spread. In 1911, the Sound Depository Note Company changed their name to the Imperial Music and Radio Company with the new adoption of radio technology in Pareena, but it would be later bought by the Imperial Locomotive Company in 2112. They are now the sole builders of musical instruments in Pareena. Due to the widespread demand of radios, the old company could not meet the manufacturing demands, and thus they were bought up by the Imperial Locomotive Company. All musical instruments are built using the original template provided by the 14th Empress, and I'll break them down into their sections. There are 4 types of instruments, all gold, with creating a new sound pattern. First, we have the strings. 2 instruments lie in this category, a light string and a heavy string. String instruments use very fine tree fiber to create a string set. When the string is plucked or is drawn across by a talon very gently, it causes a vibration that is amplified by the hollow wood on each end of the instrument. The light string is, as implied, can only achieve a high-pitched soft sound, while the larger heavy string is used to make a deeper low-pitched sound. It's used by a dragon by drawing their digits gently across the vibrating strings. It's the most challenging instrument to use as it requires good timing, fine motor skills, and knowledge of pitch change. It also takes a lot of skill of playing it quickly. Because of this, it's a very rare instrument to see used, even by the orchestra. Next is the biggest section, and that is the brass blows. As it's implied, a brass blow instruments are made of brass or similar metals. They work by the player blowing into a forward tube which rattles a small cork. The player then uses a set of push valves to change airflow, which thus changes sound and pitch. There are way too many brass blow instruments to name correctly, so I'll just state the 3 sound classifications, which is light pitch for softer sounds, medium pitch, which is the most common, and heavy pitch, which are large brass instruments creating a deeper sound and a bass. The next section are crack or bang instruments. These instruments are large and make a lot of noise, used to create a bass or a cracking sound. The most common instrument of this classification are steel plates, a large plate that is, banged together to make a metallic clunk, and of course we have drums made of animal skin and wrapped on a metal frame. A dragon will typically hit the drum with their tail to create a beat. The last section is counted as miscellaneous instruments. 2 fit this category. First is the pingboard. This long metal rack holds metal slabs of different sizes and thicknesses. When tapped with a talon at different speeds, it creates higher or lower notes. The final instrument to note is a long string. This instrument is like a light string, but it's a bit longer and narrower and has a hollow case in the rear. The notes it plays can be high-pitched or even low-pitched, and it can create bass. This instrument isn't really used by the orchestra very much, but is common among the wider population of Pareena because it's quite easy for a dragon to make on their own, and thus it's very easy to manufacture. Now, who exactly plays these instruments? As mentioned, the 14th Empress founded the official imperial orchestra in 1420. This orchestra is where the first dragons learnt to make commercial music, and to this day, the 25-strong orchestra is the sole generator of music that we play live on the radio. Each member is responsible for training a student in playing a particular instrument. Like all dragons under any organization, they are identifiable using their bakamas. Of course, members of the orchestra are expected to be presentable and of high fashion and class, especially how they do work within the imperial palace and in the presence of the imperator. Now, I'll leave imperial radio technology to a later episode, but with its adoption among the wider population of Pareena, music became available far and wide. In fact, it's the second part of my job, up here in my tower, running the records of the orchestra to be broadcast. Of course, any dragon who has access to a radio set can listen. They are most common in public feasting halls and bars, but some dragons that are lucky enough to have enough gold to buy one, well, can listen in on the safety of their own home. There is the fact that, some dragons who own their own instruments will play in public settings, as to be expected. While the orchestra does make a lot of the music we play live on the air, again, music can come from any corner of Pareena. Now let's cover dance. Now every dragon can dance, participate in dance. There is no right or wrong way of doing it, except me. I'll save the social embarrassment, thank you. Anyway, typically dragons will dance in social settings, events, or places. The most common is bars, of course. In fact, line dancing to the radio is the most common way dragons engage in dance. The concept of line dancing began from former Imperial Army inductee who trained for marching by engaging in line dancing. As they integrated into the wider population of Pareena, they brought with them this unique method of dance. The line dance has no official name, but anyone who is anyone has at least seen it or done it, and anyone knows it's fun to watch a bunch of drunks try to do it as well. And I'll provide a quick diagram showing the line dance now. Each dragon lines up in a row of at least 5. They can be bigger depending on floor space or smaller. The dance requires good timing and coordination to stay in synchronization. Dragons start in the neutral position, wings tucked, and on all fours. It starts by putting the left forearm out, and then back in. This is done twice. Next is the right forearm, out, then back in, twice, same as before. Then the left hind leg, out, and then in, twice. Repeating this with the right hind leg, out, and then in. Next are the wings. They are first tilted up and then down. This is done twice. At the same time, a dragon crosses their forelimbs together. It's a bit of a challenge to do it with both your forelimbs and your hind legs, but you can get it done pretty well. The dragon will finish on crossing their limbs again before rotating clockwise and restarting the dance. One full rotation of the dance is called a set. The highest record number of sets ever completed in one dance is about 167 sets, a unique record to hold. With our explanation of music, this opens up the introduction into radios and radio entertainment, and other forms of entertainment as well, in the form of performances. But that's another episode, for another day. Thanks for watching. Please remember to leave a comment, like, or subscribe to help the algorithm present this content to a wider audience. And don't forget the channel goals with special rewards. This is Heatwave, signing off.